Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are continuing our series on the world's great mythologies.
We are.
But today, we are taking a pretty sharp turn away from the sun-drenched temples of Greece or, the very orderly pantheons of Rome.
A very sharp turn.
We're heading north. And I don't just mean physically north to Finland and Karelia and the Arctic Circle. I mean, we're stepping into a completely different spiritual latitude.
Yeah.
We are unpacking what our guide text calls the kaleidoscope of the North.
It really is a different world. In so many of the mythologies we've covered, the gods are these distant, muscular figures. They're throwing lightning bolts from a mountaintop.
Right, they're separate from us.
Completely. But in the Finnish tradition, the boundary between a human being and the forest, or a human and the spirits, it's incredibly permeable. We are entering a zone where words have actual physical mass.
I love that idea.
Yeah, where knowledge is a sharper weapon than any sword, and where the universe itself is held together by, well, a giant rusty nail.
That is an amazing image. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the Kalevala, which most people, if they've heard of it, know as the Finnish national epic.
Right.
And also the ancient folk poetry that lies underneath it. But our source material makes a really important distinction right out of the gate. It calls this a hypermyth.
It does.
So before we get to the wizards singing people into swamps, which I promise we will, we need to set the stage. What exactly are we looking at here? Why hypermyth?
It's a crucial distinction because it changes how we read all these stories. The Kalevala isn't a primary source text. It's not like a clay tablet we dug up from Babylon.
Okay.
It's a construction, a beautiful one, but a construction. It was published in the 19th century by a doctor and linguist named Elias Lönnrot.
Lönnrot, right.
And he didn't just transcribe these stories he was hearing. He curated them. He organized them. Our source calls him a scribe shaman, which I think is just perfect.
That's a great term. So paint a picture for us. He's traveling through the backwoods of Karelia and Ingria.
Deep in the countryside.
He's sitting in these smoke-filled cabins, listening to these runic singers, these taitajet, and just writing down thousands and thousands of lines of poetry.
Exactly. And that raw data, that collection of everything he heard, is a separate thing. It's called the SKVR Suomen Kansan van hat Runot.
The old poems of the Finnish people.
Right. And that material is chaotic, it's contradictory, it's got all these different dialects, and it's deeply, deeply ancient. It reflects a hunter-gatherer worldview.
Okay, so that's the raw source.
But Lönnrot, he had a mission. He wanted to create a unified history, an epic story for the Finnish people, sort of like their own Iliad or Odyssey.
To build a national identity.
Precisely. So he took those disparate tiles of folk poetry from the SKVR, and he arranged them into a mosaic, a smooth, linear narrative that became the Kalevala.
So the Kalevala is the polished theatrical cut.
Yes.
And the SKVR is the raw, gritty dailies, the director's commentary, and all the deleted scenes rolled into one.
That's a perfect analogy. And in this deep dive, we're going to try to see both. We want to appreciate Lönnrot's literary masterpiece, of course, but we also want to peer through the cracks to see that ancient singer's world underneath what our source calls the oral matrix.
Let's talk about that oral matrix, because this is a culture that, for thousands of years, didn't write things down.
No, not at all.
They sang them. And the way they sang them, the rhythm itself, was a kind of technology, wasn't it?
It's a powerful technology. It's called the Kalevala meter, or trochaic tetrameter. And even if you don't speak a word of Finnish, you probably know this rhythm.
How does it go?
It's that very distinct dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-da. It's a very driving, forward-moving beat.
Wait, that sounds familiar.
It should. Longfellow actually borrowed it for the Song of Hiawatha. He read a German translation of the Kalevala and just fell in love with the meter.
No way!
Yes! By the shores of Gitchigumi, by the shining big sea water. That's pure Kalevala meter.
That's incredible. It's hypnotic.
It's designed to be. In an oral culture, you can't, look up a fact in a book. You have to carry the entire library in your head.
The rhythm is the filing system.
It's the filing system. It's the search engine. It acts as a mnemonic device, a memory hook. But it does something else, too. It facilitates a trance state.
A trance state.
Yeah. The singers, the taitajet, would often perform in pairs. They'd sit on a bench, hold hands, lock their knees together, and sway back and forth to this rhythm.
Oh, wow.
And this rhythm would allow them to improvise, to pull thousands of lines of history and myth seemingly out of the air. It implies that in this worldview, the universe isn't made of atoms.
It's made of sound.
It's made of sound. Reality is auditory.
Which sets us up perfectly for the creation myth. Because unlike the biblical let there be light or the very messy biological families of the Greek gods,
Right.
the Finn creation story is, well, it's a biological accident.
It is remarkably, and I think beautifully, devoid of a creator with a capital C. There's no grand architect with a plan.
No, let there be light.
No. We start with water and boredom.
That is my favorite detail.
Yeah.
The entire universe exists because a spirit got tired of doing nothing.
It's so relatable. We begin with a being named Ilmatar. She is the spirit of the air, a sort of feminine, ethereal principle, and she is just floating in the empty ether, and she is just weary of the loneliness.
Oh, she does what?
She descends, she comes down into the Alkumari, the primordial ocean, but she doesn't snap her fingers and make the world. She just floats.
For how long?
For 700 years.
700 years of just bobbing in the ocean.
Or 7 ages. It's meant to be a vast, unimaginable expanse of deep time. And while she's there, the wind, which represents the active masculine principle here, impregnates her.
Okay.
So she becomes the water mother. She's gestating the world, or at least the hero Wainamoinen, but it's a slow, agonizing process. The world isn't created by divine fiat, it's sculpted by her movement.
The text describes this so viscerally. She turns her side.
And that smooths out a coastline.
She dives down.
And that gouges out the deep trenches for the fish to live in.
She raises her head above the water.
And islands appear. It's creation through labor, through physical interaction. The earth is her body's interaction with the void. It's not an idea, it's a physical act.
But even after all this swimming and sculpting, the world is still dark, right? There's no sun, no moon.
None. Just a pregnant spirit in an endless dark ocean. And then we get the bird.
The waterfowl. And depending on which version of the raw poems you read from the SKVR, it's a different bird.
Exactly. Sometimes it's a goldeneye, sometimes a scaup, or even a massive eagle. But the dynamic is always the same. This bird is flying over the entropy of the ocean, desperate for a place to land, a place to build its nest.
And it sees Ilmatar's knee.
Just her knee, which she has lifted out of the water, maybe to relieve a cramp after a few centuries or just to shift position.
And the bird mistakes it for solid ground.
It mistakes the knee for a grassy hummock. It lands, builds a nest right there on her kneecap, and lays its eggs.
How many eggs?
Usually the story goes 6 eggs of pure gold and 1 of iron.
And here comes the physics. Birds have high body heat.
Very high. As the bird incubates the eggs, the heat transfers to Ilmatar's skin. It starts to burn her knee. The poems say it becomes unbearable, like a hot coal pressed against her flesh.
So she twitches.
It's a reflex, an involuntary spasm. She jerks her leg, the nest tips over, the eggs roll off her knee into the primordial ocean, and they shatter.
And that's it. That's the moment.
That is the big bang of the North. The universe is not created from perfection or divine will. It is created from catastrophe. It comes from brokenness.
I want to break down what happens to those shards.
Yeah.
Because this part is just beautiful.
It is. The lower half of one of the eggshells becomes Ma, the earth, the solid ground we stand on.
The top half.
The upper arch of the shell becomes Taivas, the sky.
The yolk.
The yolk becomes Peve, the sun.
And the white.
The white becomes Ku, the moon.
What about the little bits?
The speckled fragments of the shell, they're thrown upwards and they become Tedet, the stars.
And the dark bits of the iron eggshell become the clouds.
The clouds, Pilvet. It's a stunning image, isn't it? But philosophically, it tells us that we are living inside a broken shell. Reality is composed of the fragments of a destroyed, beautiful whole.
So differentiation, the separation of earth from sky, light from dark, it all comes from chaos, from an accident.
Exactly. Not from orger.
So now we have an earth and a sky. But structurally, how does this hold together? Because the ancient Finns, they didn't see a globe floating in space.
No, not at all. They saw a tent, a dome.
A dome.
They called it the Kyojokansi. That translates roughly to the bright lid or the multicolored cover. They viewed the sky as a heavy, solid object, probably forged by the smith god Ilmarinen. And if you have a heavy lid, engineering dictates you need a support structure.
You need a pole in the middle of the tent. Enter the world pillar.
The Samas. This is the Aximundi, a massive column standing at the absolute North Pole holding up the entire sky dome. But here is where the kinetic consequences of this model get really interesting.
What do you mean?
The sky moves, right? We see the stars rotate around the North Star every night. So the sky isn't just resting on the pillar, it has to be pinned to it.
With the North nail.
Poachantedi, the North Star. The literal translation is the North Nail. It acts as the hinge, the pivot point. The whole dome of the sky is spinning around this rusty cosmic nail at the top of the world pillar.
And okay, if you have a massive pillar rotating in the middle of the ocean, that's going to do something to the water around it.
It's going to create a vortex, a massive one. This is the Konami, the cosmic whirlpool. The ancient Finns believed that at the base of the world pillar there was a massive drain.
A drain.
Yes, the rotation churned the Arctic Ocean into this whirlpool that sucked water down, perhaps to the underworld, Tuonela, or maybe through the earth to the other side, creating a kind of circulatory system for the tides and currents.
It's such a functional mechanical model of the universe.
Yeah.
It explains why the currents move, why the stars move, and why the far north is so dangerous. If you sail too close to the pillar, you go down the drain.
You're lost forever. Exactly. And there's one more structural element we have to mention before we get to the gods. The great oak.
The isotami.
Right. Now, usually in mythology, a world tree is a benevolent thing, connecting the realms, Yggdrasil.
Right. It's a good thing.
But in the Finnic runes, the isotami is a problem. It's a cosmic menace.
It will be.
It's an invasive species on a cosmic scale. This tree starts growing, and it just doesn't stop. Its branches get so thick and wide, they block the sun and the moon. They stop the clouds from moving. The world is plunged into eternal darkness and stagnation. Life cannot continue.
So to get rid of it.
Wainamoinen, the hero, has to call for a logger. A small copper-clad dwarf rises from the sea.
From the sea.
From the sea, he touches the sky with his head and he transforms into a giant and he chops the oak down.
Timber.
And when it falls, the light returns. The sun and moon are free again. But there's a theory in our source material that suggests this tree represents the Milky Way. The Finns called it Linnunrata, the bird path.
Bird path.
Yeah. The felling of the tree might represent the changing of the seasons or the shifting alignment of the stars that allows the sun to return in the spring after the long polar night.
It also gives us a kind of map, right? It sets up the geography of the edge of the world. Lintukoto.
Lintukoto, the home of the birds. The Finns noticed migratory birds following the Milky Way south for the winter. So they believed they were flying to a warm paradise at the southern rim of the world, where the sky dome curves down to meet the earth.
And because the dome is low at the edges.
The inhabitants there, the people of Lintukoto, they have to be very small. Hence, the stories you find of dwarfs and pygmies living at the edge of the world. It all fits together in this physical model.
So we have the stage set, we have the dome, the pillar, the whirlpool. Now let's talk about the cast of characters. We mentioned Ilmatar, but this isn't a strict hierarchy like Olympus where everyone reports to Zeus. It feels more fluid.
It's animistic. And to understand it, we need to define a very difficult but essential concept. Veki.
Veki. Can you spell that?
V-A-K-I. Veki.
Okay, what is it?
It's an ambiguous word. It can mean people or folk, but it also means power, strength, or force. In this worldview, matter is not dead. Everything has its own Veki.
Everything. Like a rock.
A rock, a tree, a river. Water isn't just H2O. It has Veden Veki water power, or the water folk. Fire has Tulen Veki, the fire folk.
So if I get burned, it's not just a physical reaction. It's not just heat damaging my cells.
No, it's an invasion. The Tulen Veki has attacked you. It's like a spiritual radiation. The inherent force of the element has entered your body and is causing disharmony.
And the source says the most dangerous one is Kalman Veki.
The people of the grave. The power of death or the dead. This is seen as extremely contagious. If you go to a graveyard and you don't perform the proper protective rituals, the Kalman Veki can latch onto you.
And what does it do to you?
It manifests as sickness, deep depression, a loss of vitality. The explanation is that you have been infected by the people of death.
So the world is just crowded. You are constantly brushing up against these invisible tribes of forces.
Yeah.
And to navigate that, you need a high god, right? There's a guy named Ukko.
Ukko is there, yes. He's the Sky Father, the thunder. He's the one who strikes the first spark of fire. But honestly, in the stories, he's a bit distant.
He's not a micromanager.
No, he's the old man, Ukko, above the clouds. He might provide a bit of divine aid now and then, but he's not really driving the plot. The real movers and shakers, the people who actually drive the mythology, are the heroes.
Let's get to them, because these guys are not your typical knights in shining armor. Let's start with the big boss, Wainamoinen.
Wainamoinen, the eternal sage. Tolkien was absolutely obsessed with him. Gandalf is largely based on Wainamoinen.
A wise old wizard with the long white beard.
Exactly. But he's not just a wizard, he's a shaman poet. And he's born as an old man. He spends 30 years in his mother Ilmatar's womb, just learning wisdom before he even takes his first breath.
So wisdom is inherent to him.
Yes. And his superpower is his voice. This is the part of the magic system I really want to unpack. He doesn't shoot fireballs from a staff. He sings.
It's sonic manipulation of reality.
Perfect way to put it. The classic example is the singing duel with a young, arrogant rival named Youkahainen.
Right.
This kid is cocky. He challenges the ancient Wainamoinen, thinking he can win with regular weapons or basic trivia. He boasts. He says, I know the Pisanello tree grows tall. I know the salmon swims in the river.
And Wainamoinen basically says, that's children's stuff. You know nothing.
Right. And then Wainamoinen begins to sing. He doesn't sing insults. He sings the origins of things. He recites the deep code of the world, the Sinti.
And what happened?
As he sings, Youkahainen's reality begins to edit itself in real time. His crossbow turns into a rainbow. His sled transforms into reeds in a riverbank. His horse turns into a stone. And the ground beneath his feet liquefies.
He literally sings him into a swamp.
Up to his waist, then his chest, then his chin. The song changes the density of matter. This establishes the core rule of Finnish magic. The singer is a programmer. If you know the source code, the origin of a thing, you can rewrite the program.
There's another story about Wainamoinen that connects knowledge to, well, suffering in a really intense way. The story of Antero Vipunen.
This is the classic shamanic initiation myth. It's incredible. So Wainamoinen is building a magical boat, but he's missing 3 specific words, 3 magical runes to finish the hull.
Correct.
He knows that a long-dead giant, a famous sage named Antero Vipunen, possesses these powerful words.
So he goes to the grave of the giant.
Yes, but the giant is so ancient that aspen trees are growing from his shoulders and a rowan tree from his jaw. He's part of the landscape. Wainamoinen tries to wake him to ask for the words, but he slips and falls right into the giant's open mouth.
He gets swallowed alive.
Swallowed whole. And most heroes would die there. End of story.
But not Wainamoinen.
Wainamoinen turns his predicament into a workshop. Inside the giant's stomach, he sets up a forge. He puts an anvil on the giant's entrails and starts hammering iron, making a knife.
That is such a visceral, insane image. Smithing inside a belly.
It's torture for the giant. Vipunen wakes up screaming, "What is this thing eating me from the inside?" Wainamoinen basically says, I am not leaving until you sing me all your secret words, all the deep knowledge you possess.
It's a battle of wills.
An internal one, literally. The giant eventually yields, recites all the secret ancient knowledge he has, and Wainamoinen crawls out, reborn with this new power.
So the lesson is that true wisdom isn't found in a library. It's found in the belly of the beast. You have to go through a kind of death and dismemberment to get it.
That's the heart of shamanic initiation right there.
Now, Wainamoinen isn't alone in the epic. He has a counterpart, doesn't he? Ilmarinen.
Ilmarinen, yes. The celestial smith, the eternal hammerer. While Wainamoinen deals in software, in words and knowledge, Ilmarinen deals in hardware.
He's the engineer.
He's the ultimate engineer. He forged the sky dome, the Kyrgyzkanzi, he hammered out the stars and pinned them in place. But his story is often one of tragedy, a kind of warning.
The story of the Golden Bride really stood out to me. It feels incredibly modern, like a warning about technology.
It is. So Ilmarinen's human wife is killed. And in his grief, he decides he can fix this loss with his craft, with his hammer. He gathers gold and silver, he pumps the bellows, and he forges a new wife.
She's beautiful.
Breathtakingly beautiful, perfect in every way. But she's cold.
Literally cold.
Literally. The text says he tries to sleep beside her, and the side of his body that touches the metal freezes over. He realizes that the breath of life, the soul, is the one thing he cannot forge.
Wow.
It's a profound critique of artificiality. You cannot replace the organic soul with a synthetic construct, no matter how skilled you are. A warning against trying to replace nature with technology.
And then there's the third member of this trio, the Tundre. The bad boy, Lemminkainen.
The rogue, the shaman warrior. He's handsome, he's reckless, a philanderer, always looking for a fight or a woman. But his narrative arc gives us one of the most powerful images in the entire mythology, the resurrection.
This is the Osiris connection people talk about.
This is it, absolutely. Lemminkainen goes to the underworld, Tuonela, essentially on a dare to complete a series of impossible tasks. He fails. A blind shepherd, an outcast, kills him, chops his body into 5 pieces, and throws the chunks into the black river of death.
So he's not just dead, he's physically destroyed, obliterated.
Completely. But his mother, who is unnamed but is arguably the most powerful magician in the Kalevala, senses it from afar. She sees a hairbrush he left at home start to bleed.
The magical signal.
The signal. She travels to the river. She takes a giant copper rake and she begins to drag the river bottom.
She's fishing for her son.
She's fishing for the pieces of her son. She finds a finger here, a rib there, the head. She reassembles him on the riverbank like a grisly puzzle.
But he's just a body.
He's lifeless. So she sends a bee, a tiny messenger, flying up past the ninth heavens to the halls of Ukko the high god to fetch honey, a divine ointment, from the creator's private stores.
The bee succeeds.
It does. She rubs the celestial honey on him, she sings the incantations of origin, and she wakes him up. It's this incredible parallel to the ancient myths of Isis reassembling Osiris. It suggests a deep shared human heritage regarding the themes of death and rebirth.
You mentioned his mother singing incantations to heal him. I want to drill down into the mechanics of that. How does healing actually work in this system? The notes use a specific term, synty.
Synty, S-Y-N-T-Y. It means birth or origin. And this is the fundamental axiom of Finnish magic. We touched on it with Vainamoinen, but it's key to everything. If you know the origin of something, you have power over it.
It's like having the admin password for a specific file in the universe's operating system.
That's a perfect analogy. Let's use a classic example from the poems. A man has been cut by an iron sword and is bleeding to death. A healer, a titaje, which means knower, doesn't just bandage it. He recites the Radan Synty, the origin of iron.
He talks to the iron in the wound.
He talks directly to it. He reminds the iron of its childhood, its innocent birth. The poem says Iron was born from the milk of 3 celestial maidens, innocent, heavenly milk dripping from the sky.
So it was soft.
It was soft, fluid, benign. But then it was found by its brother, fire, and it was corrupted. It was hardened in the forge and taught to become a weapon.
So the healer is essentially guilt-tripping the metal.
He is shaming it. He's saying, you used to be milk. You were innocent and gentle. Why are you biting this man's flesh? Remember your true family. By naming its low and innocent origin, the iron loses its power to harm. It becomes soft again, metaphorically, and the bleeding stops.
That is absolutely fascinating.
Oh.
You aren't begging a god to fix it. You are commanding the material itself by citing its own history.
It's almost legalistic. It is. It creates a role for the Tita show that is very different from, say, a wild, ecstatic Siberian shaman. The Titache is a master of information, a scientist of origins.
But to do that, to wield that kind of power, you have to be tough. You can't just be a librarian. You need spiritual armor. This brings us to the concept of the soul. Because in this worldview, you don't just have one soul.
You have a team.
A team.
It's a kind of soul dualism, or maybe soul pluralism. There are 3 main components to a human being. First, you have Henki. That's your breath, your biological life force. If Henki leaves, you are clinically dead.
Got it. Breath of life.
Then you have Itse. That is yourself, your personality, your consciousness. This part is mobile. It can leave the body when you sleep. That's what dreaming is. Your Itse is wandering. Or it can be stolen by a shock or a trauma.
So when we say someone lost themselves after a tragedy...
They mean it literally. If you lose your Itse, you are physically alive, but you are a zombie. You have no personality.
And the third one?
The third one is Luanto. This translates to nature, but it implies your guardian spirit, your luck, or your mystical force field. It is the protective aura around you, your personal store of Veki.
The notes mention a ritual called raising your Luanto. What's that about?
Yes. Before a Titaje goes into a magical battle, like a singing duel, or tries to heal a dangerous disease which has its own hostile Veki, they have to raise their nature.
How do they do that?
They grind their teeth, stomp their feet, splash water, and work themselves into a controlled frenzy. They are hardening their Luanto. If you have a hard nature, curses and hostile magic bounce off you. If you have a soft nature, you are vulnerable to attack.
So, and we say someone has a strong personality or a forceful presence. The Finns meant that literally as a defensive shield.
Exactly. It's a spiritual armor you can cultivate.
Okay, we have the wizards, the mechanics of magic, the soul. Now we need the MacGuffin. The central plot of the Kalevala revolves around a mysterious object called the Sampo.
The Sampo, the most debated, most mysterious object in all of folklore.
So in the story, Ilmarinen, the smith, forges it to win the hand of the Maiden of the North. And it's described as having a multicolored lid, which sounds a lot like the Sky Dome. And it's a mill.
A magical mill. It grinds out 3 things on 3 different shoots: grain, salt, and gold.
Infinite
It
abundance.
is an engine of prosperity. If you possess the Sampo, your people never go hungry and they never go broke. It's a perpetual wealth machine.
But what is it? I mean, is it a literal mill? Is it a metaphor?
That's the great question scholars have fought over for more than a century. Some think it's a metaphor for the world pillar, the cosmic mill that turns the stars and brings prosperity. Some think it's a literal but magical hand mill, a quern that was elevated to god status.
The source mentions other theories.
Oh, yeah. Is it an astrolabe or a compass that allows for successful trade? Is it an allegory for the invention of agriculture or the secret of forging iron? The text is deliberately vague.
But the story of the Sampo is essentially, it's a heist movie, isn't it?
It's a full-on heist. It belongs to the north, to the grim land of Pohjola. Louhi, the powerful mistress of the north, locks it away inside a mountain of copper.
And Wainamoinen and the heroes decide they need to steal it back for their people.
Exactly. They sail north. Wainamoinen puts everyone in Pohjola to sleep with the beautiful music of his kantele. They grab the Sampo and they make a run for it. They are sailing home with the engine of infinite wealth.
Below he wakes up.
Louhi wakes up and she is furious. She transforms. She becomes a giant eagle, the Koko. She is so big that the poems say she can carry an entire army of soldiers under her wings, and she chases them down in the middle of the sea.
And in the battle, the tragedy happens.
The Sampo is smashed. In the fight, it falls overboard and shatters into pieces. The heavy lid sinks to the bottom of the ocean.
And this is the mythological explanation for why the sea is salty?
Exactly. The salt grinding part kept working at the bottom of the ocean, making the sea forever salty. But the other fragments, the grain and gold parts, they wash ashore on the coast of Kalevala.
And this is the really profound philosophical point of the epic, right?
It is. The world does not have the intact Sampo. We have fragments, we have some grain, we have some gold.
But we have to work for it.
We have to work for it. We live in a world of scarcity and labor because the machine of effortless perfection was broken. It explains why life is hard. It's a mythology of realism, not of utopia.
Speaking of the realities of life in the north, we have to talk about the king of the forest, the bear.
The bear cult. You cannot overstate the importance of this. To the ancient Finns and other northern peoples, the bear wasn't just an animal, it was a relative, it was a celestial being.
It came from the stars, right? The Big Dipper?
Yes, the Karhun Sinti, the origin of the bear. It says the bear was born in the Ottava, which is the Finnish name for the Big Dipper. It was then lowered to earth in a golden cradle on silver chains.
So it's a divine messenger.
It's a mediator between the world of the sky gods and the world of humans, and that is why the name itself is taboo.
You never, ever say the word Karhu, which means bear.
Never. Because if you say the true name, you summon the being. It's a sign of disrespect. It's like invoking Voldemort. So they developed this massive, beautiful vocabulary of euphemisms.
Oh, to some of them. They're amazing.
Messikemen, which means honeypaw. Kantio, which just means the walker. Or my favorite, Metsan Omena, the apple of the forest.
Apple of the forest.
Yeah.
That is incredibly cute for a 500-pound predator that can take your head off.
It shows affection and deep, deep respect. And when they did have to kill a bear, which was a rare and ritually significant event, they held a ceremony called Paishaset.
And this wasn't a butchering.
Not at all. It was a wedding, a funeral feast and a wedding combined.
A wedding. To whom?
The bear was the guest of honor. They would bring the body into the main house, dress it up, and marry its spirit to the community to ensure it wouldn't be angry. They would sing songs apologizing profusely to the bear.
What would they say?
They'd say things like, "We didn't kill you. You slipped on a wet root and fell on my spear. It was an accident caused by the weather."
They were absolving themselves of the guilt.
Completely. They needed to ensure the bear's spirit, its luanto, wasn't angry, and at the end of the feast, they would take the skull and hang it high in a sacred pine tree.
Why the tree?
To return the spirit to the sky. The skull always faces east, towards the rising sun or towards the Big Dipper, the Ottava. It allows the bear's soul to be reborn and return home. It's a perfect cycle of reciprocity. You take a life, but you ensure that life can return.
So if the bear goes back to the stars, where do the humans go? We have to talk about the final destination. Death. Tuonela.
Tuonela or Manala, the land of the dead. And it's very distinct from the Christian hell that would come later. It's not a place of fire and punishment. It's just dreary.
The source material makes it sound like a boring village in November.
That's exactly what it is. It's a shadowy, silent reflection of life. The dead live in a village, they have houses, but the sun is dim. The poems say they sleep under blankets of stone. It's cold, silent, and static. Nothing ever happens.
And getting there is the hard part, the journey itself.
You have to cross the river of Tuoni. It's a river of black water, and it's not empty. It's filled with swords and spears and snakes. And you have to face Twennin Titi, the girl of death.
She's the ferryman.
She is. And she interrogates all arrivals. You can't just waltz in. You have to prove you're actually dead and that you belong there.
And then there's the swan.
The Swan of Tuonela, a sacred black swan swimming on the Black River. This is the ultimate guardian. Remember Lemminkainen? He died because his task was to shoot this swan. It is the ultimate taboo. You do not touch the serene beauty of death.
There's a detail about the beer in Tuonela that I found really interesting. It reminded me of Persephone and the pomegranate scene.
Yes, that's a perfect parallel. If a living shaman manages to visit Tuonela like Väinämöinen did to get information, the spirits will offer him a tankard of beer as a sign of hospitality.
But it's a trap.
It's a trap. It's full of snake venom and frog spawn. If you drink it, you lose your memory. You forget your life on Earth, and you can never leave. Väinämöinen, being the wise sage, looks at the beer and says, "No thanks." He tricks the guards and escapes by turning into a snake and slithering through their nets.
So we've covered the creation, life, magic, and death. But the Kalevala has a very strange ending. It doesn't end with a big battle or a happily ever after. It ends with a theological argument.
The 50th Runo. It is one of the most fascinating parts of the whole epic. It deals with the end of the mythic age and the arrival of Christianity. It represents a collision of paradigms.
And it starts with a berry.
The story of a young woman named Marjata. She is a chaste shepherdess, a very clear parallel to the Virgin Mary. One day, she eats a lingonberry from a bush and becomes pregnant.
Impregnated by a berry. Very on brand for this mythology.
Very much so. She gives birth to a boy in a stable, another clear parallel. The boy is brought to Väinämöinen as the eldest sage for judgment.
And what does Väinämöinen say?
Now remember, Väinämöinen is the old guard. He follows the harsh laws of nature and clan. He looks at this fatherless child and says, "He is an abomination, born of the wind and a berry. Take him to the swamp and kill him."
Harsh.
But then the 2-week-old baby starts talking, and he doesn't just cry, he judges the judge. He judges Väinämöinen.
What does he say?
He lists Väinämöinen's own past sins and mistakes. He says, "You did not sentence yourself to the swamp when you committed your own errors. Why are you judging me with such a harsh law?" He shames the old god with a new morality of forgiveness.
The baby outsings the master singer.
With logic and ethics, yes. The baby is then baptized as the king of Karelia, and Väinämöinen realizes the game is up, the era of the shaman is ending, the era of the Christ child is beginning. The old magic is incompatible with this new law.
But Väinämöinen doesn't die in a blaze of glory. He doesn't fight a losing battle.
No, and this is the most poignant, most beautiful part. He accepts the change. He gets in his copper boat and he sails away. He sails into the whirlpool, the Kanami, or up into the sky, leaving the mortal realms behind.
But he leaves something behind.
He leaves behind his kantele, his harp, and his songs, the instruments of magic.
And he makes a promise.
He makes a promise. He says, "There will be a time for me again. I will return when the world needs a new sampo, when the world is broken, when the sunlight is gone, and you need to forge the world anew. The singer will come back."
That gives me chills. It's such a graceful exit. It's not a war of gods. It's a passing of the torch.
It signifies that the mythic world survives. It survives in the subconscious, in the forest, in the songs. It retreats, but it doesn't vanish. It's waiting. And I think that's the ultimate legacy of this kaleidoscope of the North.
How so?
Elias Lönnrot, by writing this down, by acting as that scribe shaman, he built a lifeboat for that ancient world. He saved a worldview where nature isn't just a resource to be exploited,
Right.
but a living being, a conversation partner.
Nature as a conversation partner. I think that is the perfect takeaway from this whole thing. We started this dive looking for wizards and cosmic battles. But what we found is a way of looking at the world where everything, from the iron in your blood to the stars in the sky, is connected, alive, and well listening.
It's a world where you are never truly alone, which is, I think, both incredibly comforting and a little bit terrifying.
So the next time our listeners are out in the woods, maybe show a little respect to the birch trees. If you see a swan, definitely keep your distance.
And be careful what you sing. Your words have power.
Always good advice. Thank you for guiding us through the North today. This was amazing.
It was my absolute pleasure.
And to our listeners, if you want to help keep the Deep Dive Pillar standing strong, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you on the next dive.